As an introduction to the nervous system, we have to start with the idea of the three functions of the nervous system. And what you're going to notice is that these are actually similar to a homeostatic balance mechanism. Basically, there's going to be a receptor that receives information. There's going to be a control center that processes the information. And then there's going to be a motor output of some kind. So the three functions of the nervous system are called sensory input, which is where you gather information from within and outside of the body. This could also be called the afferent branch of the nervous system. And then we have integration, where you have the processing of the information and decisions are made as to what to do with the information that's brought in through the sensory system. And lastly, you have the motor output, which is where effector organs respond to the integrated information. Now, when we look at the central nervous system, 99% of the neurons that are involved in the central nervous system are called interneurons. And these interneurons are only basically bridging the gap between the sensory and motor functions. Now, as far as the sensory neurons and the motor neurons, these are all part of the peripheral nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system is made 99% of either sensory neurons or motor neurons. One of the things we might want to address immediately is the idea that a sensory neuron is always a sensory neuron, and a motor neuron is always a motor neuron. In other words, there is no way for a sensory neuron to, for example, move a muscle. And there is no way for a motor neuron, which is responsible for moving muscles, to pick up on information from outside of the body. So they are very strict about exactly what their role is in the body. All right, so the example that is given here is that a person sees a glass of water. That information is sent to the brain. The brain decides, well, I'm thirsty, I should really take a drink of that water, and therefore makes the decision to move the appropriate muscles in order to pick up the water and drink. When we look at the divisions or the organization of the nervous system, there are two basic parts. There's the central nervous system that is shown in green here, brain and spinal cord. And then there's the peripheral nervous system, which is peripheral means outside of the center. Peri being a root that means beside something else. And so the peripheral nervous system consists of nerves that are coming off of the spinal cord. These nerves are called spinal nerves. There are also some nerves, although they're not shown in this picture, there are nerves that come directly off of the brain that are called cranial nerves. There's 12 of them, which we'll be discussing in lab. Okay, again, just to reiterate the point, the brain and the spinal cord, or 99% of the neurons that are found in here, are called interneurons. And in the peripheral nervous system, 99% of the neurons found in the peripheral nervous system are either sensory or motor neurons. Interestingly, this means that inside of the brain, there is no sensation at all. So you can do open, as we did a craniotomy, and as we removed a portion of the skull cap and did an operation on the brain, it turns out that those particular needles, for example, poking into the brain were actually never felt because there is no sensation in the brain, no movement either. The only thing that happens in the brain is decisions are made, and then the peripheral nervous system carries out all of those decisions. Okay, so carrying on then, if we look at our peripheral nervous system, the peripheral nervous system has a number of different branches. First of all, we have the sensory or afferent division of the peripheral nervous system, and then we have the motor or efferent division of the nervous system. The motor division is further divided into the somatic nervous system or the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system would be in control of skeletal muscles, and it would be allowing for voluntary movements, whereas the autonomic nervous system would be involved in involuntary movements. It would include things like moving organs over which you have no voluntary control, such as muscles that are involved in regulating your heartbeat, or muscles that are involved in regulating the movement of blood through your body. There's actually muscles involved in that process, or muscles that are involved in moving things through your digestive system, for example. Underneath of the autonomic nervous system, we have one more branching, which is the sympathetic or parasympathetic division. And we'll talk more about both of these branches when we talk about the autonomic nervous system. But the general idea is that the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system would kind of speed things up, and the parasympathetic division would sort of relax things in general.